So this is the aftermath, building that planter box. So I got a little bit of a mess to pick up. Scrap wood and tools. You can see I typically go with yellow and black tools. They seem to work pretty good. I also have some Milwaukee tools at work, and those work pretty good. These are clones of rosemary, and they took. And the reason I know they took is because some of them had roots popping out of the bottom, and they were putting on some new growth. Yeah, see, that has some roots right there growing out of the bottom. So I took them out of the greenhouse to harden them off. In the shade, or partial shade. I have these oaks up here around the house, around the back side of the property here. And they cast a little bit of shade on the back patio. There's the creatures. Yeah, but I'm going to plant them out next to that planter box because they produce a lot of blooms when a lot of other plants aren't blooming. And then my honeybees like that. They forage on the rosemary when there's, and the lavender when there's nothing else. Hens are doing good. We just gave them a bunch of medicine yesterday. We're going to go into this little greenhouse. It's like a little $100 greenhouse. We've had it for 2 years already, and probably produced more plants in this thing than the greenhouse is worth if we had to go buy these plants at the local hardware store, or Home Depot or whatever. You know, it's a branch, a plum branch that cracked off, and so I put some aloe vera on it, stuck it in the dirt, and now it's growing. So you can pretty much assume that where you see new growth in the soil down there, the roots are doing the same thing. So this is positive, very positive. We're getting new growth. That's an elderberry bush. It's doing excellent. Once it, probably next spring I'll plant that in one of the rows where the orchard is. Got some native coastal live oak. This is California wild rose. We gathered up the rose hips and then stratified the seeds. By doing that, you kind of got to freeze the seed and then warm them up. So I did that. I stratified the seeds and then planted 6 different pots, and out of those 6 I got 2 to grow, and they're growing nice. They're doing good. And this is grapes. I have gopher problem. Gophers ravaged my grapes, so they chewed the root stock all the way to the base of the plant. So to save my grapes, I ended up just taking the one that they killed off. They killed the roots. I took the canes and cloned the canes. And I don't know if all of them are going to make it, but that's new growth. Some of them have new growth, like over here. These are all canes from the plant that got chewed off. Oregano, ginger in the back. And when I first grew ginger, I thought it was corn. I forgot that I'd planted it, and it looks like that. It looks like a baby corn stalk. Black walnut. Hanging on the greenhouse is a series of different types of melon or squash. And because there's not very many pollinators in here, I don't know if they're actually going to grow much, but you can see that there's some kind of fruit on them. But then a lot of times the fruit kind of wilts. So I'm just kind of growing them in here because they're cool. And once in a while a honeybee gets stranded in here. So I guess it gets some pollination. But yeah, these are all pomegranate trimmings. I used root hormone to get those started. A little bit of chickweed, volunteer chickweed grown in there. But some of these pomegranates doing good. This cane in this old bucket is from a branch that was grown at work, and it was doing really good. And it was this long extending cane that grew out, so I ran it through the bottom of the bucket and then out the top, and then I put a bunch of dirt in there, and then every day when I went to work I'd well, not every day, but you know, once or twice a week I would water it. And then it turned out that after a while, this plant was the only plant that was off the whole grape bush. The section that I was watering was the one that was thriving, so I knew it had roots in there because it was doing better than the rest of the host plant. So, and this is just a bonsai tropical bush. I haven't ever looked it up, but I planted this when I was a little teenager, probably not even that, like a 10 or 12-year-old kid. Dragged it all over everywhere I went, into the mountains, and left it behind, came back for it a few months later, and just, that's kind of survived with me, so I keep it around. It's a good plant, and it loves this greenhouse because it's a tropical plant. These blackberries are awesome. There's an old historic house at my work because it's at a park, and at some point somebody there was kind of a winemaker because they grew a lot of blackberries. There's grapes, wine grapes specifically, and mulberry, a couple of mulberry trees, and so I've taken grafts and clones off of some of those things. I couldn't get the mulberries to survive. I don't think I was doing it right, but the blackberries obviously survived. The grapes made it. So it could be done with a little small greenhouse like this, and it's actually a nice place to go when I want to kick out for a minute. Those are bulbs for naked ladies. Those kind of bloom at an off time, and they're real prevalent in the area where I live, kind of in Monterey County. So, and then the thing's on a timer, that greenhouse. I gotta update the timer because this is for watering lawns. It doesn't have a very good array of, you know, because I don't need to water it for a lot of time. But that's what I'm using. So you can see I have the option of watering for 2 minutes every 6 hours, and that's the minimal timer, you know, minimal timing, or I guess maximum on that every maximum on that, minimum on that. But I don't want to water for 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute, and I don't want to water every 6 hours. I want to water, you know, during the daytime only, not at nighttime and stuff like that. So that is a good timer, and it's working for now. But I gotta constantly tinker with it as the season changes, and I almost prefer to have more like a hydroponic one that still hooks to a hose bib. So I'll have to see about upgrading that. The only thing is I didn't want to invest a whole lot of money in a timer. So yeah, that's a little $100 greenhouse, and that's where the two hoses come out. They just slip underneath the corner. They kind of go up, and they're kind of spread out in the middle 2/3 of the structure, and then yeah, every 6 hours it kicks on for 2 minutes, and it's working. It's keeping everything alive in there. And I did a honeybee split, so there we go. They seem to be hanging in there. They haven't really been thriving too much. I split that hive probably. That's the split. The mother hive's way over there through the barn. You can see it in the very center of the picture. But they seem to be hanging in there, so I'm kind of leaving them alone. So anyway, that's the greenhouse. Hope you found that interesting. Talk to you guys later.